I don't want that special effect.
Yeah, me too.
Hi. I have to do it. Live
so
from
entertained.
Collingswood, New Jersey. This is Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center. I'm so glad you joined us in Zoom land. And well, we're not on Zoom, we're on Facebook Live or on YouTube. Thank you for joining us, as well as everyone that showed up in person. In the words of Dr. Ernest Holmes from The Science of Mind, let us feel that our purpose is animated and inspired from on high. And then let us go forth and make our dream come true in human experience. These are beautiful and inspiring words, and we're going to allow these words to uplift us, to inspire us, to allow us to have our inspirations made manifest, because they have been planted there by the divine, and they're in each and every one of us. Let us know that they are there so that God can express itself as you through this world. The divine, the infinite energy of everything that is, the pure consciousness of all that is, expresses itself through each and every one of us. That is what I believe, and as you know, I'm taking the quantum physics class. That's what they believe too. It's what Ernest Holmes has been talking about over 100 years ago. So let us just remember that there's a higher purpose within us. So say after me, I am here so that God can express as me.
I am here so God can express as me.
Do you believe that?
Yes.
Then let's say it again. I am here so that God can express
as me.
or as me. It's so hard for us to remember one line, isn't it? But it's true. It's absolute truth. So let us get about God's business right here this morning. And I love this. This is the time that Jesus, the master teacher Jesus, was just a young boy. And his parents had brought him into Jerusalem for Passover. When the feast was over, his parents headed back to Nazareth. Jesus wasn't with them, although they didn't know it at the time because there was a whole group that they were traveling with. They thought he was with the other children in that group. But when they looked for him, they couldn't find him anywhere, so they turned back to Jerusalem. They looked all over the city for 3 days. 3 days. They found him in the temple, sitting with the teachers, listening and asking questions, conversing with them. And when she saw him, Mary ran up to Jesus and said, "What the heck are you doing? Where have you been?" No, she didn't. Because it says this much more eloquently in Scripture. I'll say what it says. "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I would be about my Father's business?" He was teaching. He was doing what he did, teaching new thought. At that time, Mary didn't understand what in the world he meant. Although, I have to say this. She really should have. I mean, she was a virgin who gave birth. But I read the Scripture, and it's, I love so much of what Jesus taught, but there is a little bit of absurdity in it. As I say, thank God they left the virgin and the prostitute in the Bible. The only 2 women in the Bible. Yeah, right? She's hiding her head. It's true. All right, I'm going to get back to my talk. We too must be about God's business. And God has a sense of humor. I'll have you know that. God has a sense of humor. To paraphrase Holmes, we must be about making our dream come true in our human experiences. And you're the only one. Only you can do it for you. No one else can do it for you. And no one else can hear the call of the divine that is your call. Each one is individualized, so each one has this beautiful calling in, this longing sometimes it feels like. But whatever it happens to be, it is a big part of you. You came in with it, it's there. What you do with those calls is up to you to decide. You can smother it on them if you have more than one, or not admit it to yourself that it even exists. You can daydream about it. You can say what you want all day long while you hang out on that edge for dear life. You know, that edge of comfort where you step out, as we talked about last week. We step out and either the ground rises to meet us or we spread wings. That is up to us. Or you can go for it. You can go for it, which requires bridging the gap. Grand adventure and purpose, yes, that was the acronym for last week. Between, I love this, incubating the idea and manifesting the dream. Isn't that good? That's what we do. So this month, we are bridging the gap. Today, we are going to look at the idea of actually building the bridge. A bridge, the bridge. Because often when we take that leap of faith, which we talked about last week, we don't see the bridge. It doesn't look like anything is there. That's what we call the unknown. And maybe you remember this movie, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Anybody an Indiana Jones fan? Yes, good. Harrison Ford or Indiana Jones. He had a dream. He had a really big dream. And it was to find the Holy Grail. He'd been on his grand adventure in purpose, and he was living in the gap. The bulk of the movie, that's where he was, living in the gap. But he's now getting close, very close to attaining his dream, but not quite yet. In fact, he suddenly finds himself faced with a big, big, big chasm. He has to get across, and there doesn't look like any way to get from one side of this chasm to the other side. Literally, he doesn't get to cross it. If he doesn't get to cross it, not only will he have not attained the Holy Grail, but he might be killed because there's all these people chasing him. Bad guys. They're in hot pursuit. So he steps out into the void, and the bridge does appear. As he takes the next step, more of the bridge appears. Step by step, he walks across the bridge that he did not see. As the camera pans back in this movie, we see that the bridge was there all along, but the color and formation of the rocks, they obscured it. There's a love tree.
Yeah.
Okay. So the color and the formation of the rocks created this optical illusion, so that neither he nor we could see the bridge. And of course, on the other side, he finds the Holy Grail. So today and the next couple of Sundays, we're going to explore some tools, because we like to have ways of accomplishing what we're talking about up here. We want to be able to use it in life, right? And these tools will help us build the bridge as we walk across it. Actually, more accurately, these tools will help us see the bridge that is already there. That is our dreams. They're already there. We just don't see them. We're going to talk about that today. Here's the first one. Cultivate the open moment. Open moment. What is an open moment? The open moment is The moment that you deliberately choose to open up even the tiniest part, the tiniest corner of your mind to the possibility that things could work out the way we would like them to work out. Absolutely gonna work out the way we want. It's the moment when we accept that perhaps, just perhaps, better than we would have ever imagined, which in my experience is what happens. We incubate the seed and we can manifest the dream, and it's grander and greater than we could ever imagine when it manifests in our lives. It is the moment when we accept that perhaps, just perhaps, God's loving energy is always guiding us and is always with us. The open moment is also when we are willing to believe in possibilities, even when everything looks so hopeless and we could be very discouraged. You say, I'm not going to get from here to there. Remember those times in your life? Maybe you're in them now. How am I going to get there when I'm here? The open moment will provide that. The open moment is the willingness to see those possibilities. And all of this is so rich, and it really was a big mouthful that I said, and I want to repeat it again because I think it is so very important that we understand this. The open moment is the moment when we deliberately choose to open just the tiniest corner of our minds to the possibility that things can work out, and they can work out even better than we could have imagined. It is the moment when we accept that perhaps, just perhaps, better than we could have imagined from where we stand right here, right now. The open moment is the willingness to believe in the possibilities, even when we do have that feeling of hopelessness. Possibilities are always available. They're always right where we are. We are in this infinite field of a limitless potentiality. And in that potentiality, that's where we are. We reside there. It is the as we call it, the God stuff. It is the everything. It is what created us, pure consciousness. There is infinite possibility available to us at all times, and right on the other side of the boundary of our comfort zone. We have to do something different if we would like to expect and experience something different, even when we are feeling hopeless. We have to make the deliberate choice to look for them, to look for what it is that we have within our very being that we want to experience, how we want to live our lives, because all things truly are possible. But we need that willingness. We must take that first step. We must nurture in ourselves the open moment, that willingness to shift the way we look at things. So if you're feeling stuck, as sometimes in life we feel stuck, or helpless, or powerless, or don't think that there's any solution whatsoever, I am truly here to tell you there's there really is infinite possibilities available to each and every one of us. But you have to have the willingness to believe that, or have the willingness to believe that impossible things can happen. Do you have that willingness? Well, I love this dialogue from one of my absolute favorite books, Alice in Wonderland. There's no use trying, Alice said. No one can believe impossible things. I dare say you haven't had much practice, said the Queen. Why, when I was your age, I always did it the half hour every day. And why sometimes I believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Do we believe what we term impossible? We term it that way, impossible. Look at all the incredibly successful people in the world. Nothing that have ever lived. Nothing was impossible to them if they believed it, if they truly believed it. And that's an open moment to be willing to have the answer come to you, because it is present within you. And that answer will show up. It absolutely will. And in her book, Successfully Midair, Sandra Daly writes, possibility and potential exist right here and right now. It's as if they are holding their breath, just waiting for you to focus on them so they can live their own purpose, which is to become. Right? The universe's purpose is to become more of itself, to expand. I talked about that last week. We evolve, and the consciousness, the universe, evolves. It evolves. It doesn't evolve. It expands. It becomes more of itself. We evolve into the knowing that we can do all these things and so much more. Back to the book. She doesn't write that. The open moments, where I got that from, the open moment's purpose is to simply be open to the tiniest crack in the wall that stands between I can't have this dream, and there are all these reasons why, and the actual experience of the better life that already exists in front of you. Open the tiniest corner of your mind to the possibilities, and your experience of life will never be the same. Very true. So our first tool of the morning is, this is all for building our bridge, is being willing to have that open moment. The second is found in one of our 6 mental faculties. We have faculties besides the senses, and they, I think, are more important. We're going to talk about intuition. And we've talked in the past about our 6 mental faculties: imagination, perception, memory, will, reason, and intuition. And we're not going to go into all of those, but we are going to focus on intuition. It's where I basically now make most of my decisions from, an intuitive sense within us. It's not logical, but then I think I was born that way too, truly. You just intuitively, without being super logical about things. Intuition is that sense within us. To me, it's the God self that is directing and guiding me. There's so much importance in listening to that intuition. It helps us build the bridge. It helps us cross the bridge. And it helps us move into what we intuitively know is the right thing for us. Listening to and following our intuition is a huge tool in building the bridge from incubation to manifestation. Manifesting what we have within us that would like to express. I've manifested so many things. Here's a quick one. So last year I was in a class, and I was, I forget which class it was or what it was about, but I was like, I want to manifest. What do I have? I've manifested so much in my life. I'm so grateful for what I've manifested, and it's been with listening intuitively and then following the guidance that made absolutely no sense, but always worked out in the highest, best good for me. But I thought, well, when I travel, I want to stay at really good hotels. That's what I want to do. I want to stay at, good hotels, I don't know how that's going to happen, And so 3 weeks ago, my son called me from Florida. This just happened, as you've seen my pictures on Facebook. And he's like, I decided I want you to come down for my birthday. He's 50, he's half a century. So I've decided I wanted you to come down. Come down, I'll pay for everything. I'll do everything, just come down. And I did, booked the trip, went with my sister. We went down on Monday, that just passed. And we're staying in the most incredible hotel. My window, our window, had a view of the Intercoastal Waterway. Not a view, it was massive, as you can see on my Facebook photos. It was massive. And I'm like, well, this is part of my dream, is to stay at better places. I don't know how it's gonna get paid for. I don't have to worry, because it got paid for, and I didn't pay for it. So it's the way the universe works, and that's a small manifestation of what we can manifest ourselves. But we have to take those steps. We have to believe it first. Anyway, back to, as in the Indiana Jones story about the bridge appearing that I shared earlier, something happened when he took that first step into what looked like the void, the unknown. Before taking that step, Indiana was guided internally to believe that if he stepped out, a bridge would appear. He heard the guidance. He listened to that guidance, but all he could see was the deep cavern. And should he fall, he would most certainly die. He had this amazing dilemma. He must trust that if he stepped out, he would be fully supported. Have we ever stepped out of our comfort zone into that unknown, that void, and we find we are fully supported? Yeah. And it really, truly works. Don't believe me, do it, try it. It really, really works. So he did this. And like I said, all he could see was this deep cavern. So this was his amazing dilemma. He must trust that if he stepped out, he'd be supported. He knew that his dream, finding the Holy Grail, required trusting and listening to that inner voice. But if he was wrong, he would die. That's what would happen. And then he heard his father's voice in his mind saying, "You must believe, son." And that's all it took for him to have the courage to take the step. Our intuition, our inner guidance won't steer us wrong, even if it's in the face of illogic. And you'll have many people telling you how illogical that sounds. And that's fine. Those are the naysayers. You don't have to listen. We call intuition our inner voice. And we have a lot of inner voices, though. I hear this in classes, especially when we're first starting out. We have a lot. How do I know? How do I know this is my inner voice, or one that's so filled with self-doubt, and it creeps up for us and tells us all the things we should or shouldn't do? Well, how about calling our intuition or guidance the voice that loves us? Isn't that a nice way to listen to it? How do I know if it's my divine voice? It will only steer you in the most incredible, loving manner. It's the voice that loves us, never criticizes us, ever. No self-judging, none of that. Because that conjures up a whole entire different image than other voices. The voice that loves me. Inside every single one of us is the voice that loves me. And it's always present. It's always there to guide me, to support me. Pay attention. Pay attention. It's always giving us direction. It is absolutely the perfect signaling device for our aliveness, for our living on this plane. Listen for it. It's there. We can then live our life with so much more in it, so much more fully when we take that step and listen. Most of us have been taught to use logic. This might seem, as I said, illogical, but if it feels loving and kind, might be scary, listen to it, follow it. What we know is that the more attention that we give that voice, the louder it gets. And that's true. The more frequently we will hear it. And the better and the easier our lives become. Listen to it, don't ignore it, because it pops up and people don't ignore it, and then they say, well, this stuff doesn't work for me. It's working. There's a beautiful passage about intuition in The Alchemist, a fable about following your dream. The boy was beginning to understand that intuition is really a sudden immersion of the soul into the universal current of life, where the histories of all people are connected, and we are able to know everything because it's all written there. Kind of like the Akashic Records, it's all written there. Begin to trust our intuition to light our way. And soon we will be on our way when we listen. Let's take a moment then to review kind of the open moment by opening the tiniest crack in our minds. And opening that crack in our minds, I think of the dam or Peter, and then puts his finger in to hold back. We pull back. All we need is a slight willingness. That's all we need. And that wall will come crumbling down. So have that intuitive willingness to be open and receptive to all the good that is absolutely available to us. I can't have this dream, and here are all the reasons why. That's what we tell ourselves. And the actual experience of the better life that already exists. It's already present. Love train. Let us listen to and hone our intuition, the voice that loves us, knowing that it will never fail us, ever, ever. And use the open moment, the voice that loves us, as navigational tools to bridge our grand adventure in purpose. Hear these words that I'm going to read. I'm going to finish it now. So hear these words that were written in The Alchemist. My heart is afraid it will have to suffer, the boy told the alchemist one night as he looked up at the moonless sky. Tell the heart that the fear of suffering is worse than suffering itself, and that no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams, because every second of the search is a second encounter with God and with eternity. Every second of the search is an encounter with God, the boy told his heart. When I had been truly searching for my treasure, every day has been luminous, because I've known that every hour was part of that dream, that I would find it when I have been what I have been truly searching for, my treasure. I've discovered things along the way that I never would have had I not had the courage to try things that seemed impossible for a shepherd to achieve. That's from The Alchemist. So let us remember that every second of every day truly is the time where we stay open to the infinite information that will fill us, that will guide us, and that intuitive self, that intuition, that voice, that inner voice will totally make the correct decisions. We must take the steps. Small steps, big steps, it doesn't make a difference. But we need to take the action. And this will continue in the next talk. And so it is.
And so it is.